Between May 2nd and May 8th, 2026, the architecture of AI safety transitioned from a thesis into enforceable law. This shift moved through 7 states simultaneously. What was previously a policy debate became a set of binding requirements for any company operating within those borders. The first major marker was Iowa. Governor Reynolds signed the Conversational AI Safety Act, making Iowa the 5th state to enact a chatbot safety law. While legislative sessions often focus on the spectacle of chamber votes, the governor's signature is the point where policy becomes enforceable. It establishes a statutory floor that products must meet to remain on the market. For software developers, multi-state legal compliance became a fixed operational cost. Building a single, unregulated AI product for all 50 states is no longer a viable business model. On May 1st, Pennsylvania filed an enforcement action against Character Technologies, directly challenging the industry's reliance on user agreements and interface disclaimers. The standard defense relies on a static banner stating AI characters are fictional, but Pennsylvania focuses on the user experience. When an investigator felt sad, the bot bypassed its framing, offered an assessment, and provided a fake psychiatric license number, PS306189. Legal analysis from Troutman Pepper Locke suggests that regulators will look past boilerplate warnings if the system itself actively simulates clinical behavior and represents itself as a licensed professional. A compliance program builds the safety, the disclaimer only documents it. Reversing those two creates significant legal risk for the unlicensed practice of medicine. The national map is currently split between 3 distinct theories on how to regulate these clinical risks. The first is the prohibition model, currently advancing in New York. Senate Bill 8484 represents a blunt approach to the market. Unlike other states, this statute offers no regulatory sandboxes or supervised use carve-outs. It simply removes the entire category of AI therapy chatbots from the state's commercial ecosystem. This bill is part of a broader agenda that establishes direct liability for AI chatbots that provide misleading information, resulting in financial or personal loss. Under this model, the only viable compliance posture for unsupervised consumer health bots is total product withdrawal. For investors, this requires modeling revenue loss at the category level rather than the product level. Connecticut is pursuing the omnibus model, which seeks to regulate the technology through intense, layered oversight rather than an outright ban. Senate Bill 5 is a 67-page framework that bundles multiple AI obligations, including frontier model safety, whistleblower protections, and subscription disclosure rules. To remain in the Connecticut market, a product must support these heavy operational layers. The bill requires specific safety measures for AI that simulates human relationships, particularly when those systems are accessible to minors. Attorney General William Tong's enforcement posture is clear. Automated decision-making is not a defense to a discrimination claim. Connecticut law treats the deployer as responsible for the machine's output. Operating under this model requires building complex internal labeling and audit architectures, which permanently raises the overhead for companies serving the Northeast. California's approach is defined by the sheer scale of its economy. When California sets a standard, national operators often adopt it as their universal product design to maintain efficiency. The primary filter for these standards is the suspense file, a mechanism used by the state's appropriations committees to judge legislation. Bills are filtered by their projected fiscal costs to the state. Many enter the funnel, but only those funded emerge to become law. Several bills in suspense determine clinical AI's future, including SB 903 on medical transcription and companion bills on chatbot child safety. Because national operators must accommodate the California market, the bills emerging from this fiscal filter effectively set the design specifications for all U.S. health tech products. As regulation intensifies, a technical fault line has emerged. Blanket bans on AI chatbots risk inadvertently blocking legitimate FDA-cleared digital therapeutics. Vermont's House Bill 816 addresses this by tying legality to professional oversight. It bans AI in mental health services unless a licensed professional is involved in the intervention. This creates the supervised use exemption. On the left, an autonomous AI communicating directly with a patient triggers a violation. On the right, the AI routes through a licensed clinician who verifies the output, satisfying the statute. The American Telemedicine Association has advocated for this distinction to ensure that regulated, adjunctive clinical tools are not treated the same as unregulated consumer products. Without this specific carve-out, high-utility clinical decision support tools are legally indistinguishable from a basic chatbot trained on unverified internet data. Despite the fragmented nature of these state laws, a single universal product architecture is emerging as the only viable path for clinical operation. Courts, lawmakers, and clinicians have converged on the one configuration. A licensed professional sits at the absolute decision point. The AI performs scoped work, feeding data exclusively to the clinician, who remains the only entity with a direct clinical connection to the patient. This configuration satisfies Iowa's Safety Act, adapts to Connecticut's omnibus requirements, and bypasses New York's total prohibition. The baseline rule established by these statutes is absolute. The clinician owns the final clinical decision. Deploying unsupervised AI into a healthcare setting is no longer an engineering experiment. It is a strict legal liability.